Hello. So, it's been a long time since I posted any video, and I know I always have an excuse. I don't have an excuse. However, I do have something that I'd wanted to talk about for about a year now. I didn't really know if it was something that people would want to see on the internet, but I've had a lot of people reach out to me, friends in my personal life, because I believe that sometimes if you go through any kind of medical, like a weird or strange or not so common medical journey, that sharing it in your own personal social media or on your own personal social media to friends and family that know you, that kind of know or maybe don't know what you're going through, I think that could be beneficial. And it's proven to be such. I've had friends and family reach out to me about what I went through because they maybe are going through the same thing or they don't understand it. So today, or whenever you're watching this, I want to address the concept of thyroid cancer, or more specifically, being diagnosed with thyroid cancer before you're even 20. So I'll start at the beginning of my journey, so to say. When I was, I believe, 18, I had my first thyroid biopsy done on nodules that kept growing. My endocrinologist is wonderful, and she is women's health. She does women's health like specialty. So she does a sonogram of the thyroid for every patient of hers every 6 months. So right off the bat, I already have other hormonal imbalances. So that's fun. So if you have PCOS, make sure you go to an endocrinologist. It's very important. But she did sonograms every 6 months, and I believe that the second sonogram, she noticed that I had nodules that had grown. They were there from the start. We'd never known. I never felt them. They were pretty small. So when I was, I believe, 18, I had a biopsy done. And if you ever want to know what that's like, it is not a fun time. However, if it is something that your doctor says you need, you have to go through it. And it's maybe hurts for 2 minutes. Your neck's kind of sore for like a couple of hours, but you'll live. Not going to kill you. It's fine. And a couple of months later, we got feedback that she hadn't gotten enough of a sample. So maybe that could have been because I was tensed, but when someone is, putting a needle in your thyroid, you're naturally going to tense up. So my advice for that is cry as much as you want, but try not to tense up your neck, because then you'll have to go back for a second biopsy like I did. So that January, I believe, or maybe it was like December. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter when it was. But about 6 months later, my endocrinologist was feeling my neck, and she was like, "This is firm." And I was like, "I don't know what that means." And I was there on my own, and she goes, "You need another biopsy." And I was like, "When?" And she said, "Right now, if you can." And I was like, and I lied, I think I was 19 the first biopsy and 20 when this happened, because because I was like, "I'm a child. I can't do this on my own." So I called my mother, and of course she's wonderful. She came like rushing to the office. But I had that second biopsy done, and it came back on Valentine's Day 2 years ago now. So 2016, that's crazy. Came back on Valentine's Day that there was this very strong possibility that I was going to have cancer if this was not removed, because the nodules had grown again. So that to me was kind of like, whatever. I mean, you can't stop these things, so it's either cry about it and not stop it, or be okay with the fact that this has to happen. You don't have to like it, but be okay with what you're going to go through happening to you, because it's not your fault. I was predisposed to this. It's on my mother's side. There's Hashimoto's. On my father's side, we now found out that there are a few different people who have had thyroid cancer, including myself. So we scheduled my thyroid. So this was February. We scheduled my thyroidectomy for August, that coming August. I had gone to Italy for 6 weeks in that summer. We were deciding to do it before then, and we were like, you know what, if something goes wrong and I have to cancel my trip, it's really hard. It was an opera program, it was training and Italian intensive, so it wasn't exactly the kind of thing that I could just kind of bail out of because we had already put a good amount of money in. Now, don't get me wrong, if it is cancer that is going to spread, absolutely you have to get that out. I mean, do what your doctor tells you, don't listen to me. But I had gone to one doctor who had said, you know, there are women who have this kind of thyroid cancer that we hadn't even known if it was cancer yet. It was technically not, and it actually wasn't until a few months later. But he was like, there are women with like stage something, you know, maybe like 2 thyroid cancer that they're pregnant and you can't undergo the thyroidectomy when you're pregnant because they can't knock you out. So he's like, you'll be okay if you wait an extra month. He's like, it really won't do anything bad to you. So that was fine. I finished out my junior year and I went to Italy, and it was interesting. It was 6 weeks. About the 3rd week, I woke up one day, and it hadn't been cancer. I knew that. And I woke up one day and I was like, I have cancer. And I knew. So it is what it is. I was enjoying my time in Italy, and I had already known it would become because if it didn't come out, it was going to become it. And I kind of knew in my head it would become cancer. So anyway, finished out my program in Italy, and I came home and I had a pre-surgery like blood work and sonogram, and my nodules had grown again. And this time it was, I think, a significant amount. And my endocrinologist was like, you have that schedule, right? And I was like, yes, honey. And I had said to my mom at one point, I was like, just so you know, it's cancer. And she was like, don't talk like that. And I was like, I'm not being cynical. Like, I have cancer. I was like, I know. Don't worry about it. So I went through all the, you know, pre-surgery checkups. Make sure you do that, of course. I mean, you have to, or you can't go into surgery. I have to say, I think the worst part of the entire experience was the night before surgery when you have to wipe yourself down with these, like, hospital cleansing cloths. And my skin was on fire. I have very sensitive skin, and I was burning. But if that was the worst of it, I feel pretty glad. So basically what it came down to, I have this wonderful surgeon. We got her on like the one day she's in this phenomenal hospital, where I live. And she said, well, if it's cancer, because they test your lymph nodes, and if you have any cancer in your lymph nodes, they take out everything, like lymph nodes, thyroid, anything that's affected. She said, if it's cancer, we're taking out the whole thyroid. If it's not cancer, we're taking out half. So they did my tests while I was under. Wonderful, wonderful hospital staff. Like, honestly, fantastic people. Go to St. Francis Hospital if you get the chance, because they're wonderful. The nurses were incredible. The anesthesiologist was joking with me the whole time. But also, if you are a singer, and I can do a separate video on this, and I probably will, but if you are a singer, you need to let them know that you are a singer, because they will use a different tube for your airways, because we don't want any vocal damage. And I don't know what the number was, but it was like less than 1% chance that you lose your voice from this surgery. My surgeon does this, I don't know how many times a week, but it is her thing. She is great at thyroidectomies. I mean, she did a great job. But she said, you know, we'll remove half if it's not cancer. So I woke up from my surgery, and anesthesia just wears right off of me. And I woke up right away. And I was like, I get up and I'm like, did you take out my thyroid? And the nurses come over, like, sweetie, go back to sleep. I'm like, no, I need to know, is my whole thyroid gone? And they were like, doctor. So they call over my surgeon, and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing's wrong. Did you take out my whole thyroid? And she was like, well, we took out half. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what you said you were going to do. That's fine. She was like, oh, go back to sleep. I'm like, no, I can't. I'm awake now. I'm fun in hospitals. But anyway, if they take out the whole thyroid, typically it's an overnight stay. If they don't, you can leave within, I think, like 4 to 6 hours. They just want to make sure that, like, you're not going to throw up, because it's very dangerous when you have a neck full of stitches to throw up after your surgery. That, and among other things, it's not good if you do anyway. Or not great. They gave me some Jello. They gave me some ice. They sat me straight up. I could not lay in that bed. So, like, forewarning, if you have a thyroidectomy or a neck surgery of any sort, like, make sure you're really vocal about being comfortable, because it is a very, very painful recovery for, like, the first 2 to 3 days. So you want to make sure that like you are telling the nurses exactly what you want. Make sure you are consuming quite a bit of ice chips on my, in my personal opinion. Yeah, so anyway, they test the lymph nodes during the surgery. They had to send the half a thyroid out for more like, I guess, in-depth testing to see whether or not like it was cancerous or what it was. So it came back 5 days later. I went back for a checkup and it came back that I actually had thyroid cancer. And I don't even think it was like stage 1. Like I think they caught it so early because my surgeon, my endocrinologist were so diligent, which I am forever grateful for, because the fact that it didn't spread was incredible, because it does spread very quickly. Thyroid cancer does have, the reputation to do that. They were wonderful about it. My surgeon was like, I did not really think at all that this was cancer. Nothing came back positive except for the actual thyroid. So of course, naturally, I'm concerned, it might come back. If it does, it does. It could come back wherever. It's, that's the beauty of crazy illness or whatever, is that, it kind of just does what it wants. But I've come to terms with it. I came to terms with that pretty much the day that she told me it had been cancer, because I was like, it is what it is. If it comes back, it comes back. And sometimes that's like the only way you can get through something, is if you acknowledge that it could happen again, or that it happened in the first place, because you don't have to like it, but it happened to you. So you kind of have to just accept it, take it face value, take it with a grain of salt if you have to, and then just kind of let it go and live with it, because it's a part of you. And so that was 2017 that I had my surgery, and it is now 2018. So it was August 18th. So my scar, and this is terrible webcam quality because I'm still stuck in the early 2000s, but my scar is very visible still. It was, of course, a lot bigger, a lot redder when it had been done for a few months after. I have very, very sensitive skin, as I've mentioned, so it is visible, and it's not something that bothers me. Now, that's not to say that I like when people are like, what did you do to yourself? It's like, sweetie, if I did this to myself, do you think I'd be here right now? Like, calm down. Choose your words better. And that's also fair warning to anyone who goes through a thyroid surgery. I hope you don't have to deal with this, but I got comments from friends, from people that I really, looked up to, like at my job. And I had this surgery, and a week later started my senior year of college. So it's not impossible. It is a very easy recovery. It hurts for like 2-3 days. They give you some painkillers. Try not to be on them for too long, because I had like withdrawal within like the 48th hour. Like, it was not a fun time. So switch to like Tylenol when you can. But yeah, so I had, a week, 2 weeks after that, I went back to work. It was 2-3 weeks after. They tell you not to go to work for like a good 14 days and not to drive for about 4. I had a coworker ask me, did you try to kill yourself and mess up? And I was like, in what world is that funny to you? And I was like, don't you think that if I tried to do that, that would be the most disgusting thing to say to me? And I go, but what I had actually was cancer. So you're making a joke now about something that theoretically could have killed me, but I had, action taken so it wouldn't. So I was like, so I really want you to think about that. She was like, no, I'm kidding. And I was like, you can kid all you want, but it still happened to me. I was like, you don't get a right to make that joke. And I had someone else say like, oh, hey, slit throat, what's going on? And it was just, he was an idiot anyway. But, just things that people say are going to be distasteful and a little bit disgusting and a little bit aggravating. However, if you do have this and you have had this done, it's laughable that anyone makes a comment, because it's like, you lived through this. So I think the worst thing that happened to you up until that point was probably the cancer. So a stupid comment is worth nothing. And frankly, I never enjoyed it, but I invited the laughs in, because I got to, my best friend and I would just laugh about it later on. And of course, the test of a true best friend is whether or not they can make tasteful cancer jokes with you. Like, cancer, I don't even know her. Tag me if you use that joke. Thank you. Yeah, but in realness, it's tough to go through it. It's even harder, I think, for some people to watch it. And interestingly enough, of course, my mother had her thyroid out when she was maybe 20 years ago. So she knew what it was like, which it was a blessing. I'm, sad that she went through it. She had the whole thing taken out. But it was at a time when they didn't have necessarily the in-depth technology that they have now. So theoretically, she didn't actually have cancer. Well, it didn't test back for cancer, but her thyroid was just not doing what it needed to do. So she's on Synthroid. I'm on Synthroid because we don't want the right half to be overworked, because if it gets overworked, it will become cancerous, which, just naturally, if you use something too much or you do something too much, repeated action wears things out. So I'm on Synthroid, and it's very important that you listen to your body when you start taking Synthroid. They start you about, I think, 3 to 4 weeks after your surgery. They start you on the lowest dose, and then they work you up, and then they'll do blood tests every so often to make sure the levels are good. They stop me at 50 milligrams, which is good. It's low. I mean, 25 is the lowest, but like when you're missing like an entire half a thyroid, sometimes it's just, and my doctor always said I had a great metabolism. Like I don't gain weight fast. I don't really lose weight fast either. So I guess I'm pretty good maintenance is fine. But, some things though, that you will notice after your thyroid surgery, you might have memory loss. I had significant memory loss. I couldn't remember things that I had said, 10 seconds prior, in certain situations. I had trouble, and I'm a singer. I could not memorize an aria. And, at that point, I very truthfully said to my opera director, I was like, I can't do this one scene. We were doing a scenes program, and I was like, I'm doing like 3, or I don't know if I had 2 or 3. And I said to her, I was like, I appreciate this. And it was like a 4 or 5 minute just solo aria. And I was like, I can't. It's been weeks. I'd worked on it for like 2 to 3 weeks and could not remember even the first page. And I was like, something is wrong and I can't. And you have to listen to that, because if you push yourself, it's not going to make it better. It might make things worse, especially mentally. So you have to listen to yourself. If things aren't normal, they're not normal, because they aren't normal, because something very abnormal happened. But it's not the end of the world, because it will change, especially with the Synthroid. Once my levels were regulated, I felt a lot better. You get a kind of like a brain fog, part from the anesthesia, part from lack of metabolism, part from trauma. And, I also experienced hot flashes, which an alumna from my sorority had reached out to me and had said, I noticed the scar on your neck. I had posted one picture, and like a couple weeks later, and it wasn't about cancer, it was just a picture of myself because I did my makeup that day and I felt like posting a picture. And my sorority sister reached out to me and was like, I recognize this. I had, and she said, papillary thyroid cancer, which is what I had. And she's like, I had, half of it removed. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Tell me what you know. And one of the big things that she said was, you're probably going to experience hot flashes. And I had like not known if I was or not. I was like, what are you talking about? And within a week, I was getting so hot. And I've always been very cold. I'm always cold in the summer, in the winter, it doesn't matter. I have, since my surgery, always been like warm. I'm always like sweating, which is gross. However, my body is completely changed. I mean, maybe not, but pretty significantly changed. So I did experience a lot of hot flashes. And I still do. They're significantly better now, but, freaks people out sometimes if they're like, why are you 105 degrees? Not actually, but, it's weird. But it's embrace it, because, like, it's our weird. It's our little half thyroid or no thyroid weirdos, thing. But yeah. So, it's a journey. It is. And there are a lot of times that, you wake up and you're like, what's going on today? Like, sometimes you just feel off and you're like, is it back? Is there something wrong? So you really have to listen to your body and listen to yourself. And I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give you if you're going through this, especially if you're young like I was, still am, I'm a kid, whatever. If you're young, it's, remember that cancer, terminal illness, even just like, a cold, none of it's your fault. So you don't just catch cancer. Maybe you're genetically predisposed, but you don't just catch cancer. It's a jerk, and it's something that it doesn't discriminate, which, it's great. It just picks who it wants. And I think that's, part of the beauty in life is that, we live in this beautiful life that kind of like there's like the ebb and flow, and, things happen as they happen. And, sometimes that's the interesting part. And that could be the best part. And unfortunately, I'm not saying, by any means that having cancer was the best part of my life, but it did change my life in a very positive way. I immediately following that, like I'd gone through, my childhood bullying, even my teenhood bullying, body image issues, just low self-esteem. I was constantly anxious just because, bad hormones and, teenager. I was a teenager. Bad things happen when you're a teenager because you tell yourself they do. But following my, diagnosis and surgery, my anxiety went down. My body image went completely up. Just in general, my entire demeanor, I became just like a 360 of a person, at least I think so, because I realized when I heard like you had cancer, it wasn't even a matter of like, oh my God, what comes next? It was like, I can't believe I let myself get so worked up and so sick over what my weight was, my height, my voice even, anxiety, like what that girl said about me last week, or, things that don't exist that I'm making up in my head. I couldn't believe that I spent 20 years of my life, or 15, I guess, I don't know how long I had cognition, but 15 years of my life maybe, worrying about stuff like that. When if I had known at like 10 that I would have cancer 10 years later, I would have been like, screw it. I'm going to live my life however I want. And like, yeah, of course I tried to, of course, but anxiety is anxiety, but it's very interesting. And of course this is, personal case, but it's very interesting what being diagnosed with something that is much bigger than you will do for you. Not even to you, but for you. Because of course illness does stuff to you. It's an illness. But it's incredible what illness will do for you. And I don't recommend anyone tries it. But also remember, you can't catch thyroid cancer. So all those people that looked at me like I was crazy, you can't catch it. But yes, so I really lend this video to the friends that have reached out to me because of my own posts about, oh, I'm doing great a year after surgery, like really proud of life. I don't even know what I posted. It was something like just, I'm grateful to be alive, I'm grateful to be here. And I've always loved being, alive and, getting to experience the world. But I appreciate it so much more now that I know what's actually worth being concerned about. And like a bad grade on a test. I'm in grad school now. That's why this has changed. I moved halfway across the country. So, just as like a forewarning, but, I had my thyroid out and my voice moved a lot better than it did before. And I didn't get vocal fatigue. And a symptom is that a lot of times you'll feel the nodules on your vocal folds, but I didn't. I never felt them. You can sometimes feel them. I never felt them. But when I had them out a week later, I sang at commencement at my university and was like, wow, my voice is huge now comparatively to what it was before. I'm not saying I'm like Joyce DiDonato, but I immediately went right into graduate auditions. I filmed videos. In that February, I got on a plane. I went to Texas. I went to Kentucky. I went to Florida. I sent submissions to Indiana and New Mexico. Nothing at that point stopped me because I had said to myself the night before my surgery, if you come out of this with a voice, you are going to grad school for performance. Because I was a double major, psychology and music, and I was like, the logical thing to do is to get my doctorate in psychoanalytic studies, because it is a passion of mine. I really love it. I probably will go back to it at some point, but I have been a singer since literally the time I was born. So I told myself, if you succeed in this, even though it was not in my control, it was in someone else's hands, but I made it kind of about me in that moment. I was like, if you get through this one surgery, you are going to graduate school for your master's in music, for vocal performance, for opera. And it's ridiculous that, a surgery did that for me. But it's also the most beautiful, it's a blessing. Because I think that had I not gone through that, I would have decided to be rational and logical and do like the normal thing that everyone in New York does, which is just get a job that pays the bills. But I didn't want that. I'm happy working my minimum wage, job, supplementing what I do. I work 2 jobs now. I'll start my 3rd soon. It's all things I love. And that's another thing, is that I find it very hard to dislike anything after what I went through. Because, there's just so much energy to be lost in hatred and negativity and worry and just the little things in life that, like, for lack of a better term, but like kind of like daily cancer is like, or little cancers, like things that poison your life, like when you've actually had it, like a big cancer, like a real one. The little things that bother you, that make you sick and that are toxic and bad for you, they don't matter. Or maybe they do, maybe, it's different for everyone, of course. But I think it's very, very important that, we all take into account what we went through. And if this video reaches at least one person who doesn't know what to do, maybe you don't have someone in your life that's been through this before, please feel free to reach out, like comment below and let me know if you need, just some advice. It is not easy to go through on your own, and I'm very lucky that I didn't. But I know I've had people reach out to me that they don't know anything about it. They're afraid of the biopsy, they're afraid of the diagnosis, and, I just tell these people, like, don't be afraid of something that you cannot stop. The only way to stop it is to have the surgery, is to have the biopsy, is to get the diagnosis, because the diagnosis is a good thing. It tells you how you can move forward and deal with the things that you are facing. And not going through that and not finding out is not good for you, because you don't know then how to handle the situation. But I will get off of my little soapbox. And I know this is quite a long video, but I feel like there are some things that you just kind of have to tell fellow strugglers and survivors and patients and anyone with any thyroid condition in general. But I like to think sometimes that there's a whole part of the world of like the people, like what people don't tell you. And I think one of the biggest things that people don't tell you about thyroid cancer is it really stinks. But it could also be a really good thing that you have it removed, because you don't want to keep it in your body and you want to be the healthiest you that you can be. So on that, I encourage you, if you're going through this, to really just think about the little things in your life and be really grateful for the good, and kind of just let go of the bad, because there are worse things. And I hate to say that because everyone goes through something different, but if you're dealing with what I went through, there are worse things like medical things, blood tests and medications that you need to worry about, and you can't waste your energy on the little things. And it's just not going to make you feel good. You're not going to be as healthy as you want to be. So I encourage you to just, really listen to yourself and listen to what you need for yourself, and just if you just went through a surgery, congratulations that you are done. And if you are going into one, good luck. You are going to be fine. And, don't worry about what you can't control, and trust that your surgeon will be wonderful. I know mine was. And yeah, so if you want any other videos regarding this, leave them down below. If you wanted anything related to like your thyroid and singing, or maybe overcoming the stereotyping or the bullying about it, or just in general videos about what it's like life post half a thyroid. Oh God. Or maybe just a video of good thyroid jokes. I've got your back. But until then, and until the next time, good luck. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know that's going through this, because as I always say, sharing is caring. Don't share thyroid cancer, though. It's not good. See what it did to me? No, okay, not funny. But you have to learn to laugh about it, I guess, right? Or maybe I just have to learn to laugh about it, because all I do is laugh. But I promise you, you can do everything that you want to do with half a thyroid, or with no thyroid, or even with a full thyroid that you just need a little bit extra help for. But I encourage you to have a wonderful life, regardless of your status of your thyroid. And have a good night, day, afternoon, wherever you are. Bye.